7.5 years ago. And it was just so real when I was crying out to God, there's something wrong with me. I feel like I'm going crazy. I can't keep a perfect house. I can't keep a perfect marriage. I'm not the perfect mom. My kids aren't perfectly behaved. And I feel like I'm failing at all of it. And I need your help because it needs to be perfect. And I need help. And I feel like I'm doing it all myself and I don't have any help. So I'm like crying out to God for help. And I'm like, help, help, help. And he said, no. He said very clearly, I'm not going to help you because you're not supposed to do all these things.
On today's episode, I have Shan Wright here, and Shan is a mom of 4, RN, holistic wellness advocate, and I'm so excited to hear her journey into what it really means to thrive in motherhood according to her specific experience and what she does as a coach and so much more. So Shan, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
It's going to be good, my friend. So let's kind of start with this idea of your story and the turning point that you kind of hit related to this idea of I cannot function and pour from an empty cup. I'd love for you to share, like, what did that journey look like and what really led you to that realization?
Yeah. So kind of long story, but I'll kind of go into it where I was at a place not realizing I was really in an empty cup. Like, I think part of that is from perfectionism and high achiever and this go-getter attitude that I've had my whole life. I think part of that is good to be someone who has so much drive and motivation. I was always told that I was so motivated to do things and even just get a lot done. And it's like, yeah, that's a good thing. But there was also some things in me that was because I was striving and I was trying to perform and, perform for likes. Nowadays, perform for likes, but really back then, my whole life growing up, perform so that, and be the good girl. So I didn't make any waves in my family. My family was already chaotic. So I was always trying to be the good girl and just be quiet and do my own thing. Like, I never wanted my mom to have to ask me, did you study for your test? Did you do your homework? Like, I just took it on my own. I didn't even tell her what, homework I had coming up or test I had. She didn't need to know, didn't need to worry her. I just had to do it on myself and get it done. And so it led me in good places. It led me to, salutatorian and never missed a day of school and good athlete and all these things. And then I got to college and I realized that I was struggling. I got my first C. I was struggling with passing nursing school. And I thought like this fear that was there, right? It came very loud. Like, you might not even pass. And it was my senior year and I was so stressed out. So I told my counselor or my, what do they call it? Your advisor, I guess.
Yeah, advisor, your advisory. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pass. I feel like I have a lot of test anxiety. I feel like I'm really struggling when I take the test and I know the information, I know the material, but I can't test well. And she sent me on to the school counselor. And that is where I vocalized again, I'm having this test anxiety. And she started pulling things out of my childhood. And I was like, no, this isn't like anxiety my whole life. This is just like right now in college, I can't test. Man, that like opened these thoughts a little bit for me. I was able to pass nursing school. I passed my boards. I finally made it. I was like, okay, it wasn't all for nothing. I did it. And got into the real nursing world. Of course, this anxiety and this perfectionism kind of came with me, and it led me to some harder things during that part of my career. And then I became a mom. And once we had our second, I decided to put nursing on the back burner and be a stay-at-home mom. Although I very quickly got into like a little Etsy shop, and I'm like, I need to keep busy and make things, and you know how it is.
Totally.
High achiever. Like, that did not leave me. I needed to fill up every moment of the day. And once I was there, I struggled a lot with my identity at that point of putting down nursing and who am I if I'm not a nurse? And when people ask, what do you do? I can't say I'm a nurse anymore. Like that is just, I kind of grieved that for a year and kind of was talking to God about it. Like, who am I then? And that started me on this identity journey and just really finding out who I am and kind of layer by layer stripping off these parts of me. And one of them was perfectionism, and that you can't have perfect kids. There's no perfect humans in the world. And so you can't possibly raise perfect kids no matter how hard you try. And
Right.
I had toddlers at the time, and the one gave me a run for my money. And I really put that on myself a lot. And then that resorted to mom rage a lot. I would yell at her. I swore I would never be a mom that yelled because mine did. I would never do that. So then I did. My anxiety was so high, it got to the point of anger. And so I had mom rage, and then I had mom guilt that followed. And I just was like, I'm failing at being a mom. Like, I am not the perfect mom. And so third kid came along, and I had this beautiful baby boy, and I was just my third bout of postpartum anxiety, and I was all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
And all these like crazy intrusive thoughts were coming of just crazy stuff. And I felt not like myself at all. And I was actually on my way to a postpartum appointment. And I was listening to a podcast, and the girl on the show was describing her postpartum anxiety. And I felt like, wow, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
And I just started crying, and I was like, do I have a postpartum anxiety? Like, I kind of, again, named it very specifically postpartum anxiety. And so I told my doctor and kind of just cried about it. And she wanted to start me on some medication, but I was like, no. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
And then I went home and I prayed. And I remember very distinctly, this prayer is like, well, it's right there in my room. I'm pointing to it. It's like, I can just see it. It was so real to me to this day. It was 7.5 years ago. And it was just so real when I was crying out to God, there's something wrong with me. I feel like I'm going crazy. I can't keep a perfect house. I can't keep a perfect marriage. I'm not the perfect mom. My kids aren't perfectly behaved. And I feel like I'm failing at all of it. And I need your help because it needs to be perfect. And I need help. And I feel like I'm doing it all myself, and I don't have any help. And then I had these lies about my husband that I was thinking about, that he didn't love the kids as much as I did. And it was just crazy. And so I'm like crying out to God for help. And I'm like, help, help, help. And he said, no. He said very clearly, I'm not going to help you because you're not supposed to do all these things.
Yeah.
And he actually then, because he's such a good God, gave me 4 very specific things to then do. And back to your remark of being empty. I didn't know I wasn't full of these ways to take care of myself, because I was, trying to work out when I could. I was in postpartum, but I was so bent out of shape about my body and what I ate, and, trying to spend time with God and trying to sleep. I mean, there's things that I was trying to do because I know I always, I was an athlete. Like I knew how to care for myself. I just didn't look at it holistically. I didn't look at the whole picture, and that all the pieces were connected and they all worked together. And so God gave me these 4 very specific things. And he's like, this is all I want you to focus on. Just these 4 things. This will lead you to peace. And this is all I have for you. Like, this takes care of everything. So I was even doing a business at the time. He's like, you don't even have to, work on your Etsy shop. Like, put that on vacation for a while. Like, just focus on time with me, time with your spouse, time with girlfriends, outside of kids, outside of play dates. Just be fun, be yourself, laugh, be authentic, be vulnerable. And then time with yourself, time taking care of yourself in solitude and silence, but also mentally, emotionally, physically. It really was very simple. He said, move your body for 30 minutes a day. But now I know there's that whole mind body connection. And I know that that's a holistic practice that I was entering. So these four things all started me on this holistic wellness journey. And that took even my medical brain to a point of, oh no, we are spiritual beings and we're in physical form, and we have to be mindful of that with everything that we do. And so I was going to God with, like, even to that point, my breaking point, my burnout moment of, I need help to do all these things, because I didn't feel empty. I felt like I was just still trying to manage all of it. And it really was him emptying me and saying, no, you need to humble yourself. And this is not for you to do. You need to lay down that pride and, because I needed to be the perfect mom. I needed to still get like that straight A on this test of momming. And he's like, no, you're not going to get it. You're not going to do that. And it was so crazy, because I was just reading through, we've all heard the Bible story, Mary and Martha. I was just reading through it with a small group at church. And we did this dwelling in the word, they call it, where you read the passage and then you pick out the words that speak to you. And then you read it again and, like, why? Why did that speak to you? Read it again and, like, what is God telling you? And when I read it that many times in that moment, in this area where I am now, trying to help other moms where I was and trying to help them to help them take bold steps in their holistic wellness journey, God said, that prayer that Martha did to Jesus, because she was talking to him in real person, but it's a prayer like I had. It's the same prayer. It's, Jesus, help me. Like, don't you tell Mary to help me? Like, I'm doing this all by myself. Yeah. And I'm doing it. I'm making this amazing meal for you guys, and I'm getting you water and getting you things that you need, because you just came to my home and I want to make it all perfect. And then his response was the exact response God said to me. It was, you're worried about many things, but only a few things are needed. Only one indeed. So the one indeed is time with him. And the three other things were the three other things that he gave me. Spend time with your loved ones, intentional time apart from doing. Just be with them. And then the other one was spend social time with your relationships, your friendships, these people that are going to fill you up in so many ways. And then the other one was with yourself. Like, I need you to take care of yourself. And this anxiety, you're worried about so many things, and you need to lay that down. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so it just was like this huge light bulb, and it was confirmation, like, yes, this has brought you to a place of peace and calm and intentionally living out your life. I want you to share it with all the other Marthas, because there's so many other Marthas that are doing all the things, but they want to be with me. They want to be like Mary at my feet. That's why Martha was so upset. She wanted to be there. She was like, it's not fair. And she's like, he said, there's other Marthas that are like you were. You wanted to be with me, but you had many things you're worried about. So anyways, I'm on fire to help people, help other moms get out of burnout and live with this peace and joy and abundance that God has promised us, because we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time to be sitting here surviving and, like, living in stressed out, mommed out, burned out, touched out motherhood. Like, it's not for anyone. And right. So many people, they think that's natural and that's normal, and it's not.
Shan, so many truth bombs, like so many powerful pieces of just incredible perspective for us as women and as moms. I love how you spoke on perfectionism. That's a huge one for us as busy moms. You spoke on identity. That's another huge thing for us as women, especially as we step into motherhood. Like, who am I now that I'm a mom? And, like, who am I as an individual woman as well? And then you also talked about, like, really laying things down and realizing that we aren't meant to do all the things. Like, we really truly aren't. And I love how you speak about God really moving in your life and giving you that message and helping you understand, like, these are the 4 areas of focus. And here's what I want you to go out and continue to teach and share with other women and other people. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that process of kind of pulling back the onion and laying things down. Like, what did you really truly have to do in your lifestyle, with your habits, boundaries, etc., to really get into focusing on those four areas of your everyday life?
Yeah, well, the number one, that's a good question. The number one, obviously, the number one thing was time with God. And that meant it's okay if a kid interrupts, but it also meant God wants to be alone with us too, and to find that time as sacred. And He could speak to us about anything. And obviously, He can speak to us during the day, and He does. But you have to have that alone time to really secure that relationship. When we only hang out with friends in group settings, we don't get to know the one person individual and really secure that bond if it's always in a group setting. So, like, if you're saying, well, I go to church 3 times a week because that's how many times my church goes, like, that's great. And you're getting that communion and you're fellowshipping over this, one presence that you're loving God together. That's great. But He wants to be with you. And I once heard Beth Moore say, and now I'm trying to remember the quote. I used to have it like posted in my room, but it was the sacred places, the quiet, alone places is where God does the most sacred work. And I forget what scripture she pulled it from, but it was from scripture where, we sometimes feel like that time. I used to like do it so early in the morning that I would fall asleep. And I'm like, well, that was pointless. And so we were like, if sometimes feel like that time's pointless, or like, okay, I read the scripture, I didn't hear anything. Like, God, won't you just speak to me? And we just kind of feel like sometimes it's a struggle, but it's really a refining process. And if we just sit there and we spend that time and we say, God, I'm here. Your servant is listening. I'm here. He is going to listen, or He is going to speak. We have to work on listening. And so whether that's shutting down your thoughts. So that's part of my, like, I was already spending time with God, like reading my Bible and praying was a part of my life. But obviously, when you're in postpartum, you kind of let the baby take the reins and you just go with their schedule. And He's like, no, you can still be in postpartum and still spend quality time with me.
Yeah.
You can do it. You have to be intentional. You have to plan it. You have to say, okay, I'm going to get this chunk of sleep, and then I'm going to feed the baby, and then I'm going to get this chunk of sleep, so that I'm have enough energy to sit there in a chair and not fall asleep. Like, you have to be intentional with your whole life to know that that's a priority and to make it a priority. And then time with moving my body, that was easy too, because I wanted to get out and walk and move my body. But it was, again, knowing that taking care of my body and having that one small goal of moving 30 minutes a day, that was the starting point. And then I was going to build on the next one and build on the next one until I was, taking back to where my body felt like mine, and back to, we know how it is. Postpartum is not my favorite as far as like all the transitions your body's going through. But it was, let's start here. Let's do a baby step. And let's a small goal. Let's move your body 30 minutes a day. And then once I started doing that and just hearing God speak to me, I'm like, wow, like those moving my body, walking. And I love to prayer walk, but even when I'm not intentionally prayer walking, it's like I can just hear God speaking to me through a podcast or whatever I'm listening to. It became one of my favorite times of the day, and still is. And so the baby could be in the stroller, and you don't have to talk to them. You can be praying. The baby can be enjoying the scenery, or I don't know, sleeping, but you don't feel like you have to be entertaining your kids at all times just because they're with you. So that was how I intentionally did it. Sometimes it was a walk with the baby. Sometimes it was, hey, husband, he knew my 4 things. That was another big thing. He knew my 4 things right off the bat. And so he was in support of, hey, I think I'm going crazy, but don't worry. God gave me these 4 things to do, but I need your help.
Yeah.
I need your help in executing these 4 things. And then the one was, date nights with him. It was, we tried to not spend money on a sitter because that can really, really add up.
Yeah.
But his mom lives close. And so I was like, can we, try to schedule date nights every other week, maybe? Like, I know once a week is really hard. We don't want to put that on her, but like every other week or every 3 weeks, and so it was having that conversation and then saying, even if we can't do it outside the home, can we have date nights at home? And we did that a lot. And it was, okay, this night, and we didn't just plan date night at home. It was, what are we going to do? Because when you get there, you get the kids finally in bed. You're like, oh my gosh, there's not, what are we going to do? Yeah. we want to go to bed. So we intentionally planned, okay, we are going to do date night on Thursday night. The Warriors play 7 p.m. We're going to get the kids in bed by then. And, we're going to watch the game and have a snack. So it changes obviously through different seasons because your kids grow. And to my dismay, bedtime is not 7 p.m. anymore. So date nights at home are kind of harder nowadays, but we can still make it happen. We can actually talk to our kids and say, hey, you guys are all up here having your screen time and you're watching a movie. Mom and dad are going in the basement for an hour. And we've done that too. So get creative. And it's again, all about intentionally planning it out. And then the last one, which was probably the hardest, was intentional time with my girlfriends and having that time outside of the house, me being Shan and having fun and doing things that I like to do with my friends and laughing and being vulnerable. And you have to find those friends to do it with, and then you have to schedule it. And I mean, because it was one of my 4 things, I dropped many things. I'm like, nope. Girlfriend date on that day. I'm not scheduling anything. Nothing's going to override it. But you're working with other people and their schedules. So it was kind of hard. It still has been one of the hardest of the 4, but it is possible. And you also have to communicate that to your people too. If they're true friends and you say, hey, I'm feeling really lonely because I haven't had a girlfriend date in 4 weeks. Can we plan something really soon? And I've had to do that. And that was humbling and vulnerable. And especially when you don't receive the I'm lonely too back, they're like, oh, okay, sure. You're like, oh, I'm the only one who feels this way. But no, to have that communication and to find your people who are going to know that that's super important to them too. And then you get really filled up for a couple weeks. And then you're like, okay, now we can go back to our families. And it just, once you see the results of it and you see the results of putting these things in practice, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to make this a priority.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I love that you're speaking to just the fluidity and imperfection of it, that it's always going to be probably a little bit different than you imagined. And you kind of have to figure out a way to make it work, or to lean into a plan B, or to have it, come up in a different capacity that works for the season that you're in. Yeah. And that permission to continue to talk through that, for high achieving women, for busy moms who have maybe a perfectionist background, like both you and I do, that is so powerful, because when you stay grounded in these are the 4 things that I want to focus on. These are the 4 ways I want to pour into my own wellness and my own well-being, but also with intentional connection with people around me. It just gives you this different level of, now I know what I need to do to try to commit to it. And here are the ways that I need to kind of ebb and flow with my efforts. So I love that you're speaking to the imperfection, Shan, because that is so real for women. And I think sometimes that's the reason we don't maybe move forward with committing or putting effort in, because it's not necessarily going to plan the way we had imagined.
Oh yeah. Well, those expectations, that's one of those things. To have realistic expectations for you, for yourself and your family, and not look at the family next to you, and not even look at your friend's family that you're trying to connect with. It's no, we have to just have God take over our expectations and say, God, what is this going to look like? And give me, how do I do it?
Yeah. How do I do it? And I love that you just continue to figure out ways to lean into him, and ways to continue to kind of check in with yourself to figure out, what is it that I need? And how do I continue to press forward towards these areas of my life that I know are going to help me fill my cup and not feel quite so empty, like we talked about at the beginning of our recording today. Shan, I'd love to kind of move into more of this holistic health practice and this advocacy that you're super passionate about. I know you have a coaching program, and I know that you have talked a lot about in your story here, this idea of learning how to look at wellness from the whole picture, that it wasn't just one specific entity, that you had to get to this place of really figuring out, how do I understand what I need from all of these different facets? So can you maybe break down a little bit, what that journey looked like for you and how you really got to this place of really understanding and coaching through holistic health?
Yeah. Well, what's really cool is that when I went to that nursing school that I barely made it through, they taught us holistic wellness because it was a Christian private nursing program.
So
And
cool.
I did not know at the time, but they taught us that we're spiritual beings in physical form and that you have to care for the spiritual wellness just as much as all the other areas. I think there's 8. So just as much as all the other areas, you have to care for that spiritual wellness really first because everything stems from it.
Yeah.
And then I went into the real nursing world and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not what happens. And that was like my main takeaway of nursing school was like, that really hit me hard. Some things,
Yeah.
really affect you differently. I don't know if they affected all my students with me in the class, but to me, that was like the thing that sat with me the most. And then I go into this nursing world and I'm like, I can't talk to this person. Like I have to just give them these 20 meds and walk out of the room and go on to the next. Like what am I supposed to do? And so I felt really unaligned for a good part of those 10 years. There was I was a travel nurse. So I was in a lot of different areas, but so there was other ones that I had more time and space with people and I learned a lot. And I think being in that where health and you're in like the medical industry and health is the focus and just that physical wellness is the focus and they are not paying attention to everything else really taught me in reverse. It taught me in reverse, like what not to do, and how we're all so connected. Every wellness area of us is connected. And so, leaving that and then being on my own journey where God reminded me, you are a whole person and you have many areas you need to pay attention to, and stop paying attention to all these little silly details. But these 4 main areas are connected to your social, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual wellness. And those were the main 5 that I really needed to focus on. And then from there, once I got really to a better healing place from my anxiety, I didn't even tell you this part, but I had my 4th kid and I entered my worst bout of postpartum anxiety. Actually, I was anxious the entire pregnancy. Wow. And it was my main symptom. I was like, my body knew it had done this before. And the main symptom was anxiety. And it was rough the whole time. And then he was born March 2020. So that put me in a whole nother spiral. And it was really hard, but I had these tools already in place. I had God had already taught me so much that I was able to say, okay, I'm feeling this way and I'm experiencing this, but here's the truth. And here's this story that I have in my head is not real because I know the truth. And I know that's where peace is. And we went through some really hard things as a family during that time. And it was just like I felt the closest to God during that time. I felt like he was constantly giving me visions and ways to bring me back to peace every time. And I don't know, I think he taught me this in 2021 or 2, but that peace actually means whole wellness. And shalom means may peace be with you, which is wellness and your whole wellness. And he's been continuing to speak to me about that. And he's like telling me, pursue peace. You don't just receive it if you are choosing the negative thoughts. You're choosing the anxiety. You're choosing to sit in that fear. You have to pursue the peace. You have to take the action to receive whole wellness. And it's intentional. act and it's intentional choosing every day.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me to say, I love the start of the year, but it's like, okay, God, what area do I need to intentionally pursue more peace in this year? And for me, it's been like a whole year process. No, it's not going to be like that for everyone,
Yeah.
but I got those main areas where I know the tools and strategies that I'm working on. But there were some wounds from my childhood that were still adding this anxiety in certain areas of my life. And yeah, rewind a little bit, but back to when God told me I had like postpartum anxiety and test anxiety, he then revealed, you've had anxiety your whole life. And so I discovered that I had some really deep financial anxiety, and it was from these wounds from my childhood. And he took me on this healing process that literally took an entire year. But at the end of it, it's like I don't have that anymore. It's like crazy how you enter this healing. It's a journey. Healing is a journey. It's not like a one-step thing. And so, but when you do feel you enter a situation where you used to have anxiety and you used to be unwell, and now you feel so much peace, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm healed, or I am like, at least, I know what to do now. I know what to do when I have this situation come up. So for me, the 1 year was financial anxiety. Then the next year was occupational wellness, and to really focus on how these anxious, negative thoughts were coming in towards my work and what I'm doing. And he's like, no, they're trying to steal your identity. I have placed you here to do this work for a reason, for a purpose, and you are designed, you're made, you're equipped to do it. So but that again, it's been an allowance of like, okay, I'm going to choose peace here, and I'm going to choose to continue to pursue it, even when sometimes it feels hard and I'm not sure how to do it. I'm going to talk to God, talk to the peacemaker, and how do I continue to pursue peace here? And yeah, so hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you're just continuing to talk about how he's speaking to you and continuing to affirm you. I think that's really hard sometimes for us, especially as busy moms, when we have so much noise and we're wearing so many hats and we're trying to discern, like, where do we need to be focusing time and energy? Do I need to be putting things into my kids, my marriage, my relationships, myself? Where do I continue to go? And I love that you have this. It's almost like a reset button, it sounds like, in your mind, where you say, am I going back to him and asking for more guidance or discernment, or really leaning into what he has you focused on in order to pursue peace, in order to keep that level of peace in your life? And it's so powerful to hear, Shan, because women need this level of guidance, but also permission to continue to go back to that place, because we really truly cannot do it all alone. And I know for me, like, one of my biggest sources of anxiety has been when I'm too into my head, trying to decide it all for myself, and I'm not leaning enough into the Bible, into God's word. And that has become so apparent more and more on my motherhood journey, because there's just so much that's out of our control. And there's so much that we need to continue to focus on in order to really stay in that peaceful, whole wellness, grounded place. And so I just so
Yeah.
appreciate your perspective. It's just really cool, Shan. So cool.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, it really comes back. I like what you're saying, like coming back all the time, because our minds are constantly going.
Yes.
I know so many moms struggle with this mental fatigue because we cannot turn it off. It is like thoughts all the time. And so a lot in my program, I mean, I truly think there's a part of anxiety that it starts in the mind. Stress and anxiety starts in the mind. And so if you want to tackle it, you got to go to the mind and get to the root of it. That's what we start there in my program. We start right with your thoughts. And that's what we talk about the entire time. Because until you rewire your brain, until you rewire those thoughts and put new truth, positive neuron pathways in there, you're going to continue to listen to the negative ones. And it's going to feel like a battle. You're going to feel like all the time, 10 times a day, you're like, okay, God, I mean, like, you're going to be so distraught and so like conflicted because you don't know what the truth is.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you do know what the truth is if you rewire those neuron pathways and you stop listening to the negative, because our thoughts lead to our words, lead to our actions, lead to our results, our life. And so if we really want to change something in our life and we don't want to stay in this place, we've got to go back to changing our thoughts. And so that's initially where we start in my program, is on the thoughts. And then we continue to ride that wave the whole way through. And by the end, it really only takes 30 days to rewire your brain, but you have to stay consistent with it. And you have to, and the only way to stay consistent is with accountability. And so it really all, like, to do this kind of work alone is hard. I don't know. I wouldn't say impossible, because everything's possible with God, but I would say it's really hard. Why don't you come alongside someone who has been there, done it before, and do it with them? So
yeah, you're so right. It's just harder when you're trying to do it all alone, and it feels better and a little bit more manageable when you're doing this work related to whole wellness, changing your brain, all of the things, just alongside other people that are also trying to do that work. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about your program, Shan. I know you talked a little bit about where you start and how you kind of coach women starting in the mindset realm, but share a little bit more so people can hear just more about the work you do.
yeah, so it's called the Bold Blueprint because this comes back to my identity, and I lived being this good girl and was very quiet and reserved because of that, and was labeled shy. And it never really sat well with me. And I didn't know that I was living under that identity of being shy, that label, for so long. I mean, it took me till my 30s. I don't even know what year exactly, but I was sitting with God, and it was on Epiphany, which is my favorite day of the year. And I was sitting with God, like praying about an epiphany. And I said, tell me more of who I am. And he said, well, you're not shy. You're strong and courageous. And I'm with you wherever you go. And I'm going to take you big places if you open your mouth and you speak. And so it started this journey of being strong and courageous. And I didn't know, this is like a little side note, I didn't know he gave me that verse when I had this big moment with him, that third baby was born. He gave me that verse, which I thought was for that baby. And so I plastered it all over his room. I created a little song, been singing to him every single night since then. Yeah. And I think this was like 3 or 4 years ago. And he said, no, that is it's for that kid too, but it's also for you. I gave you that verse for you because that is telling you who you are. You are strong and courageous, and I want you to walk in this bold, intentional actions. And so in that prayer, as you remember, he gave me the 4 things. That's the blueprint. Yeah. So now I have a program called the Bold Blueprint, where I walk these women they can be burnt out. They can be, I think a lot of times we don't know we're in burnout. Yeah. So they can just feel stressed out. They can feel anxious. They can think they have anxiety. It really comes, like, it runs the gamut of how the person's feeling, because it's hard to verbalize those things. You don't really know where you are. You just know something's not right. And I don't feel good. And I want to be more at Jesus's feet, but I'm distracted by many things. And so the blueprint is those 4 things. And we walk you through step by step. So the stress curve, burnout is at the bottom of this beautiful stress curve. And we need stress in our lives. There's good stress, there's bad stress. We need stress to actually do anything. And so it's taking those baby but bold steps back up the mountain, out of burnout, out of that valley of burnout, to the top where we're thriving with optimum stress. We're able to manage our stress. We know what to do with it when we have a little bit too big of a load. We know how to manage our family with peace and calm, and with this voice all the time that God's with us, and he's giving us the instruction on what to do. And so we definitely focus, that first bucket is time with God. And we just really solidify that. And we find practical ways to make it happen in our daily life. Then we move on to time with ourselves. We build on these holistic health habits, drinking water, moving your body, eating good food, getting our body to a place of where it's free of chronic stress, because, stress is internal, and it does chronic stress equals chronic inflammation equals chronic disease, sadly equals death. So we have to get back to the stress and eliminate or reduce this chronic stress. And we do that practically and with a lot of accountability, because again, this stuff is hard. So let's do it together. Take the small steps. And then the third one is, time with your spouse, your family.
Yeah.
And remember, God gave me very specific ones, but I'm teaching the blueprint. So you might not even be married. And so it might not be date nights, but maybe you're a single mom. And so it's going to look like dates with your kids and how to have that intentional time with your kids and how to manage a family when there's so many different personalities and so much communication that needs to happen, that kind of thing. And then we move into time with your purpose and that social time and living out your true identity. We learn identity in the very beginning, but it's all about living from that true identity and not letting anything tell us otherwise, and continue to live on purpose with those people that God's placed in our lives to love us and to love them well. And we're able to do it when we've reclaimed our time, we've reclaimed our peace, we've reclaimed our purpose. We're able to do it with ease. And sometimes these moms are like, I just want to know how to cook food and make meals 10 times a day. And how do I do that without being stressed out? I'm like, oh, we'll get there. Yeah. We're going to get there. But first we got to work on time with God and hearing his voice and your identity. And then I have other moms that are like, I just have a messy house and it's cluttering my mind. And I'm like, yep, we're going to get there. We're going to clean out your whole house. It's going to be amazing. But right now we're going to work on time. It's baby steps, but they're bold and they're intentional. And they're all meant to get us to that place of peace.
The bold blueprint. I love that, Shan. So powerful and just so good for women to be reassured in this sense of taking bold steps in our life, right? Mm-hmm. But also like being vulnerable in the way of saying, I know that I need to start with me, and I know that I need to start from this place of connecting to my purpose. Yeah. And really connecting to my spiritual life and letting that drive how I'm able to show up in my day to day. So I really appreciate and love the work that you're doing, Shannon. It's just so, so powerful.
Thank you.
I would love for you to speak really quickly before we wrap up. I'd love for you to speak to the mom that's listening to this, who's maybe she feels what you're saying, right? She also feels like, I am in an empty place, or she can't maybe even identify it, but she knows that she's not really intentionally filling her cup because she's exhausted, she's lost, she doesn't know how to do it, she's burned out, and she's at her breaking point, right? Like she just knows she needs to make a change, but she's really stuck. Like she just doesn't know what the best first step is. What would be your encouragement to her?
Oh, well, that I've been there and I know what you're feeling, and there's other moms that know what you're feeling too. And so the first thing I would do would probably reach out to a friend that you can talk to, someone that you can share these feelings with. But also I have a free Facebook community. You can come in there. You can message me privately. It doesn't matter. I would say talk to someone and share these thoughts and feelings, because that is going to help you not feel alone, because you're not alone, but we feel this loneliness, and this loneliness brings us to a place of isolation even more. It's kind of weird how it does that. You wouldn't think it does, but it brings us more into isolation, which is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants us to stay less connected to people. And when we can actually just connect, you never know what God's doing in that person's life and what he's going to share to you through that. So the first thing would be to connect to someone, and I am here for you if you need that. The next thing would be to do something so simple, but it is the fastest way to relieve stress and to center your heart, and that is a breath prayer. So you simply take deep breaths. Like, there's so much science and physiological work that happens when you deep breathe, but we're going to deep breathe, take really deep breaths in and out, and audibly exhale. But at the same time, you're going to speak truth out loud. You're going to pray out loud. And this is going to kind of feel weird in the beginning. And you're going to also say, well, I don't know what words to say, because right now, like, my head is filled with all sorts of stuff. So I actually have I think at this point, maybe 5 episodes that I call on my podcast, Breathe and Be Still. And I just walk you through this. I have one of my favorites on there, which is "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." So that is an episode that you can put on, and that really covers the gamut on on things that you can be feeling. So I believe that's episode 152 on Holistic Moms podcast. And you're really just going to do the breath prayer with me, but that's going to help you get into how to do it, and you're going to feel the results, and then you're going to be able to do it on your own other times too. But the first time I'll do it with you, it'll be great. And I have a few different verses, but it's, all along the same lines. You would deep breathe in, "The Lord is my shepherd," out loud, say that, exhale, and then out loud, "I lack nothing." So breath prayer and connect to someone.
So good. And so simple, and something that we need to just give ourselves permission to really do. Cause you're right. Like when we don't voice how we feel, we sit in isolation, and the more isolated we feel, the more lonely we feel. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. And I love how you're just reminding us of that truth and the importance of stepping into that level of vulnerability, and what a gift it can be, not only in your life, but also in other people's lives. Like that's really it's just such an incredibly powerful thing to really be able to connect to other people. Yeah. And we do that through being vulnerable. And you have reminded us of that so much today, in your incredible story, your incredible expertise, your amazing coaching program. I'm just so grateful to connect with you, Shan. You are just awesome, my friend. Really quickly, will you share how everyone can find you, connect with you? Do you have a website, online, things like that?
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, first I want to give a gift away. So in my Bold Blueprint, we, like I said, focus on identity, and then we're going to learn how to live out of our identity. We're going to need to find out what it is, and then we're going to live out of that kingdom identity. And the thing that I love to teach is that you can do this with your kids. Yeah. Because if we can get them to live in their true identity at whatever young age they are, what an amazing life they're going to have. Yeah. So I have created a free gift for you called the Belief Poem. And so you're going to teach your kids their identity through this poem. And it's a basic of, I am not what I have, what I do, or what I say, but I'm a child of God kind of thing. But if they can say that and know that and really truly believe it, then they're going to know that they were made with so much more. And then you can even find out their kingdom identity with them. But that's a free gift, because then as you teach them, you're teaching yourself. So it's the first start in rewiring your brain. And so you can go to www.theshanwright.com/belief poem. That's your free gift. Without the Belief Poem, that's my website.
Awesome.
And you can learn all about the program at theshanwright.com/bold. And my podcast, Holistic Moms, that's where I like to hang out.
So good. And we'll make sure that everything is linked in the show notes of this podcast. So you can grab the Belief Poem, connect with Shan on her website, on social, and so much more. And like she said, she also has her own podcast, Holistic Moms. Make sure you check that out. Incredible knowledge, incredible perspective. And I can't thank you enough for the incredible ways you have served this community today, Shan. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know balancing time and energy can be a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for listening in and investing in your wellness journey. I feel incredibly grateful to connect with you and for the opportunity to share more knowledge, stories, and encouragement related to all things wellness. I would love to hear how this podcast has served you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on either iTunes or Spotify. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me reach more women just like you and me who are looking to transform their health from the inside out. Plus, when you share this episode with a friend, we invite more women in to learn alongside us. What a gift. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can do. For ourselves, for our families, and our future. Well done on taking the step towards a healthier, happier you. Until next week, stay empowered and stay well.